Good afternoon. I'm Quim Muñoz and I come from Barcelona. I have a degree in law and I'm a doctor in human, social, and legal sciences. But I work as marketing director in Optic and Duran, and I have written some books about human development and about E.F. Schumacher mytha economy, in which I'm a specialist. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about the choice of profession as an essential ethical reflection based on the teleological idea of good work by E.F. Schumacher. I must begin by apologizing to you. When I was invited to present a paper at this conference, I immediately answered yes, without hesitation. This is my first presentation. Until now, I had stayed away from an academic world, and I was very, very excited. Then I discovered that the Congress was in English, and given my more than basic level, I panicked. In fact, I nearly quit to avoid ridicule. But the importance of the subject has led me to swallow the shame and pride to be here today. Because regardless of the limitations of my language, if only I get one of you to perceive the moral responsibility that accompanies a proper choice of profession and put your 2 cents to share what you have discovered, the bad time I may have due to my difficulties with English will be more than compensated. The only thing I'm asking for is patience with my presentation. I'm going to use all 30 minutes given to me to my speech. Therefore, if there is any question, I will ask you to send it to me by email so that the answer you receive can be more accurate and complete. I would not want my basic level of English to prevent me from giving you the most adequate answer to your questions. Now that you have been warned, we can get into the matter. I will try to be clear, synthetic, as far as possible, enjoyable. For this reason, I have a problem with okay. For this reason, I will avoid bibliographical references during my presentation and will focus on the basic principles set out in my paper. Anyone who is interested in the details will find them in the written version of my paper. The others, you can thus enjoy a shared reflection that offers you an overview of an issue that, if you are interested, you can deepen by reading the paper on which it's based. Let us begin with a question. Is there anything on which we spend more time during our day than to work and reflect on our profession? For most of us, our work is the center of our activity, the core of our existence. And yet, as Schumacher criticizes, there is shortage of in-depth studies of work, and much less around the choice of profession to which we are going to dedicate much of our day. Does it make any sense? It seems not, and even less if, based on our own experience, we think that St. Thomas Aquinas is right to say that there can be no enjoyment in life without enjoyment at work. Wouldn't it be logical to devote part of our effort to reflecting on the correct choice of job if our happiness can depend on it? Isn't it our ultimate desire to access to it? Why, then, do we find hardly any studies on the subject? We seem to be focusing on the practice of the profession, but not on the profession. The center of our reflections is no longer the person, but the professional and economic activity. We have put the ephemeral before the eternal, and we have overlooked the warning that there is no point in conquering the world if the price to pay is to lose our soul along the way. Through this presentation, I would like us to make together a path back to the essentials, in which the most important thing becomes, again, the most important thing, in which we consider what is actually the center of our life and the center of our profession, and we become aware of the importance of a correct choice of profession, not only to be happy and successful, but to make this world a better place and feel fulfilled and connected with life with a capital letter, will the work to achieve it. Will we work to achieve it? I don't know about you, but I understand that work is much more than an activity you get paid to do. Personally, I share with Schumacher, whose idea of good work this paper is based on, I share with him, as I was saying, the conviction that our conception of work depends on how we understand life and ourselves, and that our way of working is very closely linked to our way of being. Because work is, at heart, an actus personae, an action that involves all the dimensions of our being, mobilizing them and allowing them to manifest themselves. As we are, that's how we work. We express ourselves through what we do, but also what we do models and transforms us. Through our profession, we make ourselves, but we also humanize the world in which we are living. The work produces fruits ad extra, but also ad intra, and we will deal with all of them, albeit briefly, in this exposition. We said that the way we understand ourselves determines the idea we have of work. Let's start there. In his Guide to the Perplexed, a delicious book that I recommend to the most philosophical among you, Schumacher makes an outline of his anthropology. Following the classics, it conceives the human being as a whole of body, mind, and spirit, and consequently affirms that body, mind, and spirit are dimensions that must be attended to and developed by our profession so that we can speak of good work. Schumacher's term good work, which will appear again and again in my presentation, does not refer to a job impeccably done or to a job that brings us a great financial reward. His idea of good work has more to do with his moral valuation. As soon as we are faced with a profession that leads us to good, a good that, attending to the teleological vision of existence of our author, is identified with what leads us to the fullness of our nature, to our full development, to realize our destiny, to live with the highest of the senses, turning into an act all our potential and putting it at the service of others ad majorem Dei gloria. According to Schumacher, only in this way the three requirements of good work will meet. These are: 1. Provide us with the necessary and useful goods and services. 2. Allow us to use and perfect our natural talents. 3. Help us to serve and cooperate with others, freeing us from our innate self-centeredness. Have you perceived the correspondence between these three requirements of good work and the three constituent elements of the human being, according to the anthropology proposed by Schumacher? Body, mind, and spirit. Sustenance, personal development, and spiritual development through transcendence. We can start by sustenance. Since we are body, we have physical and material needs to cover. And our job must give us those means to be a good job. Now, Schumacher advocates a materially simple existence based on the idea of obtaining maximum well-being with minimum consumption. That we have enough to feed ourselves, to rest, and to shelter ourselves, but no more. However, the truth is that too many of us tend not to be content with that, but want to eat well, dress well, shelter in a very comfortable home, and why not recognize it, allow ourselves some wins. And this is how we come to understand that a good job is the one that offers us a remuneration that allows us all that, although it forces us to give up our personal and professional development. We may not realize it, but by accepting that premise, we are setting the price we have put on our lives. Because by focusing on only one aspect of our being, corporeality, we have renounced the happiness that is only found in the harmonious development of our three constituent elements. About the personal development. Good work, can be an important instrument of personal development that, through the exercise of our talents, helps them to unfold and to cultivate virtues that make us grow as people. It is the idea of the subjective value of work to which John Paul II has dedicated his reflections. Not only we do manifest ourselves through what we do, but what we do transforms us and helps us to forge our identity. The third aspect of good work in Schumacher's vision is its ability to help us transcend ourselves through our loving dedication to others through our profession. Yes, you heard it right. I've talked about love, as outlandish as it may sound in academia to use this term to refer to work. That's how it goes, because it's difficult to conceive of a good job that does not consist of assignation in spiritual affairs, in all love and service. In fact, Saint Jose Maria Escrivá de Balaguer, first Chancellor of the University of Navarra, expressed it with great clarity when he stated, work is born to love. Work is born of love. Love is manifested. Love is ordained. We are social beings who need others, and they need us. We are heirs, and we benefit from all that those who have lived before us have done. We should be grateful for that and respond to that gratitude by giving up our talents for the benefit of others. Our work can and should be a way of loving with actions those who have loved us first. It must be our contribution to a wounded world, trying to heal it by applying our genius to heal its scars and attend to its needs. To those of us who start from a transcendent vision of existence, the image that through our work we can become the hands of God by acting in the world, bringing his blessings here and now through the application of our talents, often seems especially suggestive. We can transform ourselves while we transform the world into a better place. If it serves you, perfect. If, on the other hand, you are uncomfortable with the term God, replace him with the term absolute, destinity, life, or any other that serves you, but don't give up being part of the solution and not part of the problem. Body, mind, and spirit. Sustenance, personal development, and transcendence. The three legs that sustain us and that a good job cannot give up. At this point, the question that arises and that brings us closer to the final question of this reflection, that is the choice of profession as an essential ethical decision, is whether any profession can offer us the satisfaction of these three needs, or whether, on the contrary, it is up to us to discern which work among the possible ones is the most suitable for us, depending on how it meets each of these requirements. Or, in other words, whether the choice of profession should be an act of voluntarist self-determination or a search for what we are, in a sense, to develop our powers and become what we are called to be. In our case, following Schumacher, we identify with the second option. We understand that the professional vocation must follow the existential vocation, and that this consists of developing our talents to put them at the service of others through an act of love that perfects us and leads us to happiness through union with ourselves, with others, and with God, the first and last cause of our existence. In this way, work ceases to be seen as a curse, to be perceived and experienced as a free participation in the co-creation and redemption of the better world in which we have had to live. It's true that, as Hortal recalls, there are many who today view with suspicion this notion of professional vocation, since they find that it is a relic of the past that can legitimize elitist privileges or cultivate idealizations that make workers vulnerable to exploitation and injustice. However, there is life beyond the academy, and on a social level, notions such as Ikigai, flow, the element, or the purpose have more and more relevance and acceptance. Different denominations for a very similar idea, which we find in most of the spiritual traditions that Schumacher devoted himself to studying in depth, and which can be correctly summarized in the explanation of the Hindu notion of Spadharma proposed by René Renon. This consists in the realization by each being of an activity according to its own essence or nature. Thus, although in the modern conception, a person can adopt any profession, or can even change it at his whim, as if the profession were something completely external to him, in the traditional conception, each one must fulfill the function to which his own nature is destined, with the virtues and aptitudes that have been given to us. From this point of view, carrying out another profession is a serious disorder that not only harms the person himself, but also the whole society in which he lives, because it deprives him of the treasures that each and every one of us keeps within us. If the professional vocation must follow the existential vocation, and this has to do with our essential nature and with the talents that have been given to us to share, it's especially important to know ourselves and learn to discover those talents that have been given to us, so that we can improve the life of our fellow human beings. Although I have dedicated a section in my paper to how to identify what we are called, we now lack time to delve into the subject. So I will limit myself to enunciating those signs to which we must be attentive to identify the talents that will allow us to choose a profession that will lead us to happiness through our full humanization and the transformation of the world in a better place. Or inclinations. Is there something that, since childhood, fascinates you to do? 2, or talents or skills. Is there anything you've always excelled at? 3, the inner voice. Have you ever doing anything heard a voice inside you saying, you were born for this? 4, the state of flow. Is there any activity that makes you lose track of time, that does not tire you despite the effort to perform it, and whose practice makes you feel more yourself than ever? And finally, the net needs of the market. Looking around you, do you discover any shortcomings or needs that you know you can solve by applying your genius? As can be seen in this diagram, it is in the interrelationship of all these indicators where we find good work or ideal work to enjoy a happy life and align with our existence vocation, with the mission and the meaning of our life. Now, once good work is discovered, it's up to us to say yes or no to that call. A decision that, if we take it freely, has a great moral significance by conditioning, as we have seen, who we are and how we are going to relate to the world through our profession. But, of course, in order to be a decision on which we can reflect ethically, it must, by definition, be a decision that we take freely, that is not conditioned, because there is no responsibility without freedom. And although I'm afraid that most of us here have had enough freedom when it comes to choosing our profession, if one has to worry about whether one will have to feed himself the next day, he hardly worries about the choice of profession as an essential ethical decision. The truth is that there are many who have to accept a profession that is imposed on them by circumstances. And we are not just talking about social or economic conditions related to need or hardship. How many parents do not give their children a choice, but instead encourage or force them to study what, as experienced adults, they consider to be the best option for them? And how many young people, from their inexperience, choose their studies and their profession in a reckless and irresponsible way, without realizing that a profession is much more than a job, and without appreciating that they are facing one of the most important decisions they are going to make in their lives. In fact, we could say, returning to our subject, that this is the main ethical decision that affects our profession. Main because it is in its temporal principle, and also main because the professional vocation is so closely linked to the essential vocation that erring in the profession we choose can lead us to live a life that is not ours, in which we will not feel comfortable or find happiness. Freedom implies responsibility. The decisions we make have consequences for ourselves and for others. And the choice of profession is no exception. Just as we have affirmed the good work shows us the way to our fullness and happiness, it is no less true to affirm that a bad choice of profession can turn our life, and perhaps also that of others, into a hell. A person dedicated to what he was not born is a dislocated piece that is indigestible to life, because he has to become violent every morning to face a reality that he dislikes. The lack of correspondence between what we are and what we do makes us suffer and makes our profession a tripalium against, again, the etymology, an instrument of torture that makes us suffer. And suffering is transmitted because beyond our sense of personal alienation and existential emptiness, our discomfort accompanies us wherever we go. And they are the closest, the most loved, or family, the first to suffer the dire consequences of a job that prevents us from being happy. Do we really want our loved ones to have to live with our existential frustration? But not just them. Also, the company in which we work and the society in which we live suffers if we chose badly, because we deprive them of our talents, of the best of ourselves, of the most valuable that we could contribute through good work. The world will not be better because we have chosen badly. If we do not opt for good work, we lose ourselves, our families lose, our business lose, and our society loses. But business. It's for this reason that I encourage you to highlight the radical moral importance of paying close attention to the choice of profession. Neither people nor professions are interchangeable. What's a good job for me can be a bad job for you. Where I will find my happiness, you may only find hardship. If we want to be happy, see your loved ones happy, and help build a society in which good, peace, and justice prevail. We can start by encouraging everyone to seek, find, and follow their professional vocation. Every person who works giving birth to the best of himself will be the ferment of a better world from which we will all benefit. Well, it's true that, as we have seen, we all have a moral responsibility depending on our choice of profession. Those of us here have an additional responsibility because I hope that I have helped you to become aware of the importance of this issue. If so, we must get down to work because there is a lot of work to be done. Where to start? I will leave it to Schumacher himself to give us the answer, ending this presentation with his words. He said, the answer is as simple as it is disconcerting. We, each of us, can work to put our own house in order. As simple as it is powerful, as small as it is beautiful. Let us be the change we want to see in the world. Thanks a lot. Please remember, if there is any question, I encourage you to write me an email so that I can answer you more fully and in detail, besides with a better English. My email is contacto@quimmunoz.com. You have it in the last slide of my presentation. Thanks a lot again, and I will be waiting for your emails. Thank you.